Well, hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne. Thank you for finding me in this crowded world of orchid videos here on YouTube. My channel is that of an amateur, where I try and grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia, without much help from knowing much. Greenhouses, grow lights, equipment, really just me and them, inside, outside, or not at all. Reason being, I am kind of a no-frills kind of orchid grower, so I kind of just don't have time for all that malarkey or the aesthetics of it, to be honest. Anyway, this is what I do, try and grow these things. The ramblings of an amateur, but they might help you with your orchid journey. And our orchid journey today, plant lovers, is this Masdevallia, which I bought from a flea market. Now, I know this is going to send many of you in paroxysms of jealousy because you never find orchids like that in flea markets in blah, 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 blah. Well, here, luckily in Melbourne, you do. And this one came from the Coburg Trash and Treasure, which is in Coburg, which is a suburb north of Melbourne, named after the town that Prince Albert came from. There was a lot of royal German names in Melbourne in the 19th century anyway. And this has yellow, butter yellow flowers. And I'll drop in a picture of it when I bought it. Incredible to find such a plant at a trash and treasure, at a flea market, basically, a car boot sale. And I've had it now for quite some time, and it's in quite a large pot. And it hasn't really done much, so there's been no new growth. Now, usually Masdevallias are fairly consistent in their growth, and I had been meaning to pot it, and it's autumn now, not the premium time to be potting, but Masdevallias don't really have a downtime because they are sort of growing all the time. They don't have a dormancy. They grow from higher altitude, sort of misty rainforest, so they're used to fairly consistent moisture. But I thought, as this didn't come from a professional grower, I am just curious what the medium might be. I can see at the top that it's sphagnum, which is very moist because obviously I'm watering it, but I wonder what's going on. I can just see there are a few new leaf growths, which you probably can't see, but they are tiny, just starting to emerge actually, but that is a good sign of life. But I just think now is the time for me to unpot this, see what's going on, and repot it. And because I am a terracotta pot lover, we're going to use this terracotta pot, which has another one inside, which I have just prepared. Well, I just cleaned. It's kind of the same size as the plant. Masdevallias don't have very deep root systems as well, so this might be too deep, but we'll have a look. Now, the other thing that we are going to be examining are these two dead little twigs. Look at that. Although not dead, you see, we have one leaf and a new growth. And this, although this looks dead, I don't know if you can actually see, but the rhizome at the bottom is green. There you go, if I get out of the way, you can see it there. It's green with active roots. These very unprepossessing little twiglets are two bits of a Masdevallia, and it's Masdevallia Rubicon Launch Lilac. Now, I already have Masdevallia Rubicon Launch Lilac in a massive plant that bloomed incredibly for me, which I made a video about. It's not this one, I'm hastening to add. This is one of those plants, you know, if you've got a few too many plants, some things fall over or they're at the back, or you just forget their existence for whatever reason. It's crowded, they're jostling. Well, this poor little baby was one of them, which might be why I in fact bought another Rubicon Launch, which has done incredibly well, because I forgot I had this one. Anyway, I am going to try and raise this almost from the dead. Now, I've got a tiny little nursery pot here, which we're going to put it in. And Masdevallias, people have different regimes with them. Some people repot them religiously every year in spring, some people don't. I guess it really depends on your growing conditions and how you think it's going, and often the medium too in your climatic conditions. So I tend to repot mine when I think they need it, which could be every couple of years or so. And the medium itself, because they have quite a fine root system, let me show you. I'm going to use a medium bark with perlite, but also it's got lots of sphagnum in it. So it's a mix that I would use for oncidiums as well, but probably a bit smaller and with a bit more sphagnum moss broken into it. Because you want to try and keep those roots not wringing wet, but having access to moisture. So let's spin the camera around and just unearth this and see what we're going to find. Okie doke. Let's see what we have going on here. Oh, well, there we go. A shallow pot full of small bark, a rim of sphagnum, and generally very healthy roots. I'm just going to take that sphagnum off. Well, as you can see, really, actually, quite healthy roots growing all the way around. which is quite pleasant to see. So in the core, you're probably always going to get denser material. There we are. So I'm just going to snip some of these obviously dead roots off. There we go. Snipping off the obvious dead ones. So really quite a lovely root ball. It's actually a good chance to see how Masdevallias grow. So you see they have a sort of a fine rhizome, and then you get these sort of growth points like this growing up from it. And there's a little dead growth point there, which we can take out. There we are. This green stuff would be someone else's fertilizer, I imagine. Now, given the size of that, of course, I could divide it, but I'm not going to, plant lovers, because I do like a specimen plant. I'm just going to pull out some of the old dead parts of the plant. There you can see some old flower spikes. We'll just snip those off. And so I can see here, I can see a new leaf growth, and I can see some others just in there, and in there. So it is doing its thing, which is great. All right, I will still use this pot, but I'll actually just fill the base with a lot of larger bark just to assist the drainage before I sort of make the top third of it just a bit softer, let's say, with more of the sphagnum. Okay, mainly bark and charcoal in the bottom 2/3. Then we'll put our sort of slightly finer mixture of a finer grade bark with sphagnum. Then as Masdevallias are really growing throughout the year, and this one is, I wouldn't normally feed, but I am going to put a little bit of slow release in there as we've got new growth coming. Let's now then just plop our plant back in the pot. Actually, that's a really good fit. There we are. And then just fill around with this light, airy mix. Perlite, bark, charcoal and sphagnum. And there we are. Ta-da, ta-da, our no ID yellow Masdevallia. And now our poor little Masdevallia orphans. This is really going to be a challenge. But look, there is still some green life in this growth point and green roots. So I am just going to plant this as it is, because you just never know. Let's get rid of some of that definitely dead stuff. Let me just trim that off, that off, that off. Yes, I think the odds are particularly against this, but you just never know, plant lovers, do you? Okay, but I am going to plant it with this bit. Now that is definitely dead, and so is that, and so is that. There we go. Take out that little bit, and that, and that. Okay, so what we can see here is that new leaf and some new roots action just coming in there. So you never know. So back to our mix. There we go. A nice light mix. Lots of sphagnum for these non-existent roots to get their teeth into. Let's just put that there. Let's just put those together there. Put some sphagnum around the base of that plant. And then some material like that. There we are. There we are, plant lovers. Very little expectation with this. We'll just pop the tag back in, but you never know, and it's worth a go. So there we are, plant lovers. Exhibit A, our beautiful yellow Masdevallia. And then our little runtlings, which who knows? Who knows? Anyway, there is a leaf. It can photosynthesize. I'm up for it. Let's see. But it's funny that I've actually got exactly the same orchid that bloomed like there was no tomorrow earlier in the year. So hopefully this one will get a bit of that growing vibe. So there we are. This I think will look sensational with its yellow flowers. Hopefully it does very well for me. What I'll do with both of these now is just give them a real drenching with a seaweed-based solution, diluted down to about 1/8, 1/10 of the recommended dose, just to help settle the plant in, really water and moisten all of that medium, and just give them a little something to get their little roots into as they're navigating their new potting environment. Well, there we are, plant lovers. Thank you very much for finding me and watching my little Masdevallia repot epic. I've got a whole playlist of Masdevallias, which I'll link above. They do really like my climate. They are a cool climate plant. They won't do well in extremes of heat, but so saying, we get very hot summers. As long as you really moisten them and keep the ambient air as cool as you can by hosing around them, they kind of get through our odd, really hot summer days. So even in the hottest of environments, if you can keep the area cool, you should be able to grow Masdevallias. They do like our cool winters though, and plenty of moisture. They come from those wonderful high altitude cloud forests of South America. So there we are. When this flowers, I will show it to you again. And plant lovers, what will be happening again is that I'll be posting next Friday. So hit subscribe if you want to know what I'm doing next week. And I very much look forward to seeing you. I hope all's well in your world. See you next Friday.